Hey yo, the Faniac is back once again. And this time, I just got back from the theater and I just saw the first two episodes of Lord of the Rings of Power. Yes. Oh man, okay. Going in, I had an open mind. I was very optimistic, very hopeful, but still cautious. I heard a lot of the stuff going around based on the history, the lore, and everything. No one was excited really for it online, but free tickets. I got to see it in an XD theater. The screen is massive. I got to sit right in the middle. It was perfect. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a good experience either way. So I'll go in with an open mind. With that said, I was really surprised. It was really, really good. And this is coming from someone who grew up watching the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogies back to back. So, I know a lot. Okay, so to put it bluntly, I read the Hobbit book, I watched the movies, just both trilogies I watched. I haven't read all of the Lord of the Rings books. I haven't got into the Silmarillion, so I can't say if it's really die-hard accurate, but I do know they had a consultant from the Tolkien family estate, with I think being the grandson, Simon Tolkien. Don't quote me, I don't know for certain, but I do know Simon Tolkien was a consultant on the TV show on behalf of the Tolkien estate and family, so that was pretty cool. And also, kind of, well, okay, let's just dive into the TV show. How was it? In my opinion, it's actually really, really good. Like, okay, people like some critics are even saying it has like competition with Game of Thrones. I honestly say it could easily be the more friendlier version of Game of Thrones. Because trust me when I say there's a lot going on. Um. So okay, but again, how is it? How do I think? Well, okay, let's. The cat. Well, let me put it this way. If you like the structure of like watching multiple storylines, this could be cool. Except that it gets really annoying. The second episode is like four different stories going on. I'm like it's like you kept back and forth between one and the other and the other. And then when you get back to like one of the ones, was like, oh yeah, I forgot we were on that. So it's like, oh crap, it gets a chore to sit through. But the good news is it does start off nice and fresh. But I will say this: I did miss the first couple minutes from the lines in the theater, so that sucked. But I do know that they were in one of the cave mines fighting with the elf soldiers, fighting a troll, and then Galadriel, who is leading the army, noticing the markings of Sauron on the altar or forge hammer thing. I don't know what it's called, but either way, it bears his marking. She brings her concern to Elrond and the Council of Elves, or King, I guess, and she wants to like go investigate, but they say no, the evil is gone. Morgoth has been destroyed. Which, fun fact, I do like the reference. Oh, I also looked up from the Silmarillion. Pretty cool nod. On that hand, they also kinda involuntarily force her to leave and go back to their homeland, much like that was done with Frodo and the rest of the elves after the end of the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy, so that was kind of cool. And we do even get a bit of a tease on what that world looks like, so that was pretty cool. With that said, she also, while doing so, she has a couple talks with Elrond, and we get to know that she lost her brother during the war with Morgoth, so that was pretty cool. So yeah, we do get to know her and her character and how her relationship is with Elrond. With that said, both actors are really freaking good. Elrond, that guy really surprised me. He actually really sells me on like the Hugo Weaving part. Like, if you were to tell me he plays a younger version of Hugo Weaving's Lord Elrond from the Hobbit movies, I would have been like, yeah, I can see it. Like, he does a really, really good job. He really, really, really does. So going in, I thought he was like instantly one of the real highlights. His storyline was awesome. I loved his interpretation. Instantly gonna watch more, just for Lord Elrond, easily for that front. On that hand, also Galadriel is a pretty cool character. We get to know more of her actual. We get to flesh out more of her actual history as opposed to just having her be there for the characters to just roll on and give exposition and story to, like in Lord of the Rings. With that said, also Kate Blanchett gave life to the role, and she was really good. But also, I do like the fact that we do kind of explore her character. We get to know her a little bit more. With that also said, not a ton, but again, enough to get me interested and be like, okay, I care enough about this character for the amount of time she's given, so that when she's actually put in mortal danger, like for example, she leaves the ship, she decides, nope, screw this crap, I'm gonna go fight the evil again. So she takes her blade, jumps off the ship, and then gets it stuck on a raft with a bunch of strangers. They're all being surviving this giant sea beast from the ocean that instantly comes to defeat them, eat them, most of them up, which. Seeing on the big screen, that was freaking awesome. So, just saying that was freaking awesome. That's just so cool. Well, that also said she meets an actual man from the realm of men, from the Southlands, I think. I could be wrong in terms of that respect, but whatever. Apparently, it looks like they start bonding over each other with the fact that his family and his home might have been on the front lines during the battle with Morgoth, so that would have been interesting. And we also get to know more about them. They start developing a bond. I'm not going to say relationship, but I'm going to say bond. Like, they start forming a bit of a bond. But it's not like it really goes anywhere, because by the time they start actually bonding, they're found by another ship, and that's kind of where the story ends. Ooh, big whoop, can't wait to see what the frick that guy was for looking at for like a week. So, that's something to look forward to, I guess. Well, that also said, let's go back to Elrond. How is he doing? What's he been doing? What Galadriel's been doing? Well, the king assigned him to an elvish blacksmith. I forget his name at the moment. But, with that said, the forgesmith wants to develop like the best forge in like all of Middle-earth, just to actually benefit the people as opposed to conquer and just ruin their lives again. Which it ultimately kind of does that again anyway. But whatever. Point being is that he wants to forge a forge. But which ultimately, it kind of is seeded that maybe the rings of power are actually made there, which is freaking awesome. But that also said, they don't have the necessary men. I remember the line from the movie being like, okay, I want, and he was like, okay, it's like winter, and I want this to be done by spring. And I asked for 1,000 men, and he gave me you. Elrond. Oh, fudge. That was kind of funny. That was actually really funny. Getting back on track, though, they don't have the required needs, so he goes to ask one of his friends for help, which just happens to be Prince Durin of the Dwarvish people. Love that. And I'll just say this for a fact. Just to be here, what I love is that they actually filmed it in New Zealand. So when I'm seeing on the big screen and I recognize the mountain landscapes, I'm like, oh yes, I feel like I'm back in Middle-earth. It's just so cool. Love that. And we actually get to go inside the mountain of the dwarves. It's not Erebor, but still, it's just so freaking cool to see that. And the makeup, oh my gosh. I swore it's almost like they almost got Peter Jackson back just to direct the dwarf scenes. I know they didn't, but you could have fooled me if you told me they did. But actually, going back on track, fun fact, J.A. Bayona did apparently direct these 2 episodes, who is known for Monster Calls and lesser known, or more infamously known for Fallen Kingdom, Jurassic World. Either way, he is a very good director, and he has a good hand and knows well how to direct a series this grand and this epic. That said, moving on to the actual plot in the story, he reckons apparently he's not greeted with open arms. Elrond needs to invoke a certain thing. I don't know. It's like what those things in those movies. And that which kind of forces him to get into a competition with Prince Durin, and thus we learn actually why it wasn't greeted with open arms was because of the fact that while he was busy doing, I don't know, elvish politics, I guess. That's kind of how they put it in this. Apparently he also missed out on about 20 years of his best friend's life. Yikes. Like, they even pointed out, like, to you it might be a blink of an eye, but for me, it's 20 years freaking. 20 years, like, that's still freaking a long time. And at that time, he even points out that he got married and had kids, like, and you missed out, like, you could have shown up at my wedding. You didn't. You could have showed up for my kid's birth. You also didn't do that. Oh, God. But everyone thinks, hey, why not reconcile right now? So he goes over, so he accidentally stays over for dinner. They start bonding, and they even point out, I really like that one moment where the wife points out that the seedling that Elrond gave to Durin actually grew into, like, a nice half tree. And she even points out he watered it every day, and the dwarf said it would never grow in the dark recesses of a mountain. Prove them wrong. I just like it kind of seeds that relationship, and he starts saying, yeah, okay, I can see the forge working out. And then, of course, we also get to meet King Durin, and they tease, I should say, the Arkenstone. I mean, you can't actually see it for, like, copyright reasons, of course, but, oh, God, just love the reference already. Just wonderful. Love it. With that also said, okay, that wraps up Elrond and Galadriel. Now let's get into the Hobbits. The Harfoots. So apparently these aren't hobbits yet. They're Harfoots, which are a version of a hobbit. From what I can tell, that the first hobbits to come to Middle Earth. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's why. From what I can gather, that's who they are. They're not hobbits yet. They are a type of hobbit, and the first one who are now just settling into Middle Earth. And these, and a young rebellious hobbit. We get to know her in her environment, blah, blah, blah. That's the first episode. Next episode, though, actually deals with her everyone noticing a giant comet floating through the sky. Lands right in the fields next to the Harfoots. The young little Harfoot, I forget her name, though, goes up to it and is like, oh my gosh, I wonder what that is. It turns out it's a dude. A dude literally fell from the stars. A man fell from the sky. I want to make a man who fell to earth joke, but I just can't. Yeah. Okay. Point being is that she finds him, nurses him, tries to help him out, but she can't. I'm not certain. They tease he could be an alien. On the one hand, it does make sense to tie in other worlds, since it's a fantasy. On the other hand, it means aliens do technically exist in, I guess, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Granted, I never needed that, but okay, what does it bring? Nothing much so far, but... And to be fair, he does show, like, he has a bit of control over nature. I initially thought he could have been Radagast, like he could have been one of the very first wizards. I highly doubt that's the case, but I could see him being, like, maybe a template for future wizards. If that's what they're going for, I don't know, but that would be interesting. And he even shows how he's related to the problems and, like, life on this earth, so that's pretty cool. He even shows a sequence of him, like chanting a spell that accidentally breaks the young Harfoot's father's ankle. That was freaking brutal to watch and see. But even then, still cool. I'm caring enough about the guys. I'm really getting into the world. I'm being able to breathe in it and just get to know the environment, get to know the people. I love little stuff like that. Hobbit trilogy, whatever you say about it, you can throw any dirt on it you want. I don't care. The extended edition of An Unexpected Journey, I love so much. Why? Because I love little moments like Bilbo walking through Rivendell and just breathing and walking around and just like, yes, and just talking to Elrond. You don't need that, but oh my gosh, so I want more like that. It's just so much better where you can hang out with the characters and just breathe in that environment. It feels more real, more organic. I love stuff like that, and you do get a fair share of that a bit here, which I love. It's not memorable, but I'll give credit where credit's due. They have stuff like this, so you get to know the characters and make sure that when they're thrown into situations, you care about them, unlike Shield, but whatever. And that, from that perspective, apparently it turns out he controls the weather. They have to move because of harvest time, or because the stars are doing whatever, I don't know. And they have to move. She's worried because she can't take care of him anymore. On the other hand, though, he proves he could be a bit of a threat. We kind of end on that note. Doesn't really go anywhere else after that, but whatever. From that perspective, though, let's get into the other story. Yeah, apparently they really do, like, try to make it, like, kid-friendly Game of Thrones. Or even The Witcher from that perspective. Like, there's so many storylines going on. I'm, like, just trying to make sure I'm trying to remember all of them as they just cut back to back to back to back. It gets annoying almost real fast. But to be fair, it's only in the second episode, not the first. So I'll give credit where credit's due. They did that. First episode, you can introduce the characters. They kind of, instead of having 4 stories, it's more like 3, because you have Galadriel and Elrond still meeting before they diverge. So again, it allows you to breathe in the world, make it more believable, more organic. Pretty cool. But then they get to episode 2, and boy, still good, but just gets annoying when you have to cut back to back to back to back to back to all these stories. So tiring. That's really my one real gripe, but with that said, what happens to the other story? Well, we get to meet another elvish soldier who's just been told that he can now be on leave, but also finds that the Mark of Sauron is near. He also apparently has the hots for a human, much more similar to Aragorn and Arwen, or I guess Tauriel and Fili from The Hobbit, so another forbidden love. Of course, feels naked without it now, I guess. Because it's now just part of the course for the series. But whatever. Point being, it's there. Can't change that. But what I really do find cool is that when they actually go and see the girl, Bronwyn, they go and see Bronwyn's old farmstead destroyed, burned to the ground. It's all it looked like a hurricane came down there. I think it's smog right now. For those who get it. And it looks really cool because they find that it's man-made. There's stuff burrowing underneath. Who is it? Orcs. Orcs from, like, Mordor coming in from the down to the north. Oh, frick, come on. Oh, I am sold on this TV show. The makeup on the one orc, brutal. He looked disgusting, and I loved every single moment of it. It was so cool. Well, that also said the elf goes down to the tunnels to look for it, gets captured. The girl goes back to her home, sees it's been raided, hides in the closet, and then gets ready to fight that freaking orc, which also is another bit of a nitpick, but there was an action sequence in the house that's really not shot well. It's filled with shaky cam and 2 close-ups, and there was some pretty cool stuff. They actually try to hang the orc from the roof, or like the ceiling, and actually put a knife a sword actually right into his back, and she even cuts his head off. But it's so shaky and so hastily edited, I could barely make it out. And that sucks. I love cool action like that. But when it's so frenetic and so weirdly shot, if you can't make it out, why shoot it like that? It's annoying. With that said, though, it was done enough where we're like, okay, I can see it. I see it. So from that perspective, okay, I see what they're going for. And then also really interestingly cool, the son finds the remains of a sword that has the bearing of Sauron. And it's broken, but after the battle, his blood touches the knife. Then it starts repairing itself. I'm like, ooh, that's cool. I'm just wondering if that's like a seed for how Sauron later comes into the TV show. Like he hears it, almost like the ring, like that's like the ring calling to him before the ring was there to call to him. Kind of like that. I wonder if it's kind of cool like that. Like the Witch King of Angmar's blade from The Hobbit. That was cool. So kind of thinking of it like in terms of like that. Could be cool. I'm really interested. There is a lot of cool things to pick apart from this TV show. I'm liking this. With that said, there are a fair share of problems. From that perspective and how many people were viewing it, it's easily not as bad as people were led to believe and how the trailer made it look. It's a lot better than it looks. And while these first 2 episodes do have their fair share of issues, kind of like The Witcher and Game of Thrones, they got better at handling that because they knew that you can only have a certain amount of time to show 2 different stories and know how much time each episode should be given. Let me go to The Witcher, for example. Episode 1 was good. He had 2 stories to tell, cut back to back. Perfect. That was good. Episode 2 sucked, though, because now they had to introduce another girl. I forget her name at the moment, but you had Geralt, you had Ciri, and then you had, I forget her name, the Witch, and then you have to cut to her origin story, and back to all 3. That sucked. 3rd episode, though, redeemed itself because it focused more on the Witch and Geralt's journey, and then teased more of Ciri's at the end. That's perfect because they know easily what to make less of and what to show more of, based on what each episode still want. And it makes sense because the next episode after, showing more of Geralt and Ciri, will show just a bit more of the Witch, showing that now she regrets her decision, but not too much that overpowers the episode, just enough to see and show that she's regretting it. It's good. Stuff like that works. And I feel like if this is the direction the show goes in, it's going to be awesome. If it doesn't, okay, well, episode 2 was a jumble of a mess, but still watchable. I like the characters that are getting into it, and I'm pretty sure they're going to interconnect at some point. So from that perspective, it's awesome. I love it. And, which is why, I'm going to proudly give the first 2 episodes of Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, 4.5 out of 5 lightsabers. I have my nitpicks, it has its problems, but man, ultimately at the end of the day, I don't care. It's still freaking awesome. So from that perspective, what did you guys think? Does it live up to be as awful, as bad as it? Or is it a lot unexpectedly better than you thought? Or maybe are you in the middle? Was it just okay? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to know what you think. Please like and subscribe for more videos. And I hope to see you more. And review more in the future. Take care.